But by design, I also recognize that a lot of those people aren't going to my page to see negativity. And so not just protecting myself or the people that work with me, but also the supporters. So I don't have the comments section on.
The gloves are officially off. Americans have stopped tiptoeing around the truth about Meghan Markle, and what they're saying is absolutely explosive. A commentator didn't mince words when she laid it out bare for everyone to hear. Meghan only got where she is because she slept with the spare and got knocked up. Let's be honest about it, the commentator declared, adding that marrying the money and marrying the prestige doesn't make you a self-made success story. The statement sent shockwaves rippling through social media. But here's the thing, a lot of Americans are nodding in agreement. This isn't coming from random trolls hiding behind anonymous accounts. This is mainstream American media finally saying what millions have been thinking for years. The fairy tale narrative that Meghan worked her way to the top through sheer determination and talent is crumbling faster than a sandcastle at high tide. Instead, people are pointing to the obvious. She was a moderately successful television actress on a cable show until she met a prince, and suddenly everything changed.
Only got where she was because she slept with the spare and got knocked up. Let's be honest about it. I mean, that's, I guess that's one way to do it, but
the pathway to fame, fortune, and global influence didn't come from years of grinding in Hollywood or building a business empire from scratch. It came from a relationship, a pregnancy, and a royal wedding that captivated the world. But wait, it gets even more brutal. The same commentator went on to say that Meghan committed the greatest sin in the Gloria Steinem feminism rulebook, using a man to climb the ladder. For someone who positions herself as a champion of female empowerment and independence, that's a devastating accusation. The irony isn't lost on anyone watching this unfold. Here's a woman who talks endlessly about being a female founder, about breaking barriers, about doing the work, yet when you strip away the Sussex title and the royal connections, what's actually left? Americans are asking that question louder than ever, and the silence from Montecito is deafening.
Don't sit here and call yourself a female founder when you married the money and you married the prestige. You didn't build anything for yourself. You committed the greatest sin in your Gloria Steinem feminism rulebook.
What makes this moment so stunning is the timing. Meghan just tried to paint herself as a hard-working entrepreneur with that Instagram post set to Dolly Parton's 9 to 5. She wanted the world to see her as relatable, as someone juggling multiple projects and hustling like everyone else. Instead, it triggered a wave of criticism so fierce that even her most loyal supporters struggled to defend her. People aren't buying the carefully curated image anymore. They're seeing through the designer clothes, the polished PR statements, and the strategic social media posts. They're seeing a woman who married into wealth and status, then rebranded herself as something she never actually built. And the most shocking part? This is just the beginning of the unraveling. The American public is known for loving an underdog story, for celebrating people who genuinely pull themselves up by their bootstraps. But they also have zero patience for phoniness, for people who claim credit they didn't earn. Meghan is learning that lesson the hard way right now, and the revelations about how she really built her career are about to get even more uncomfortable. Let's talk about that Instagram post, because it might go down as one of the most tone-deaf social media moments in recent celebrity history. Meghan Markle decided to showcase her supposedly busy working life by posting a montage set to Dolly Parton's 9 to 5. The song is literally an anthem for hardworking Americans struggling to make ends meet, clocking in and out, answering to bosses, barely scraping by on their paychecks. And Meghan thought this was the perfect soundtrack for her life? The backlash was swift and absolutely merciless. Americans immediately called out the absurdity. One viral comment summed it up perfectly. The most work she probably has to do each day is decide what designer gear to wear. That line hit different because it's rooted in truth. Meghan lives in a $16 million mansion in Montecito. She has access to round-the-clock help if she wants it, which sources suggest she absolutely does. Nannies, assistants, publicists, stylists. Her daily reality looks nothing like the average person grinding through an actual 9 to 5 job. Nothing even close. Real working Americans know what 9 to 5 actually means. It means waking up exhausted, commuting in traffic, dealing with difficult customers or demanding supervisors, worrying about bills, squeezing in grocery shopping after work, helping kids with homework while trying to throw together dinner. It means sacrifice, stress, and very little glamour. Meghan's version apparently involves photo shoots, carefully staged content creation, and promoting ventures that haven't exactly set the world on fire. The contrast couldn't be starker, and people are furious about the comparison. But here's where it gets even more insulting. Meghan has the audacity to frame herself as relatable to everyday working women, while simultaneously living a lifestyle that's completely disconnected from their reality. She talks about female empowerment and supporting working mothers, yet she's never had to choose between paying rent or buying groceries. She's never had to skip lunch to save money or work overtime just to make ends meet. Her struggles involve which private jet to take or which A-list event to attend. That's not 9 to 5. That's not even in the same universe. Sources close to the situation reveal that Meghan genuinely believes she's working hard. She's convinced that her various projects, her networking, her brand-building efforts constitute real labor. And sure, being in the public eye comes with pressures most people don't face. But equating that to the daily grind of ordinary Americans who actually work 9 to 5 jobs, that's where she lost the plot entirely. It shows a fundamental disconnect from reality, a failure to understand how privileged her position truly is. The American response has been brutal, precisely because they value authenticity. They can spot a fraud from miles away, and when someone tries to co-opt their struggles while living in luxury, the reaction is visceral. Meghan wanted sympathy and relatability. Instead, she got exposed for being completely out of touch, and the revelations about her manufactured image were only just beginning. Now we need to address the elephant in the room, Meghan's favorite label for herself. Female founder. She uses that phrase constantly, weaving it into interviews, social media bios, and public appearances like it's some kind of badge of honor. But Americans are finally asking the question that needed to be asked all along: what exactly did she found? Because when you dig into the details, the whole narrative starts falling apart faster than you can say Sussex Royal. The commentator who went viral didn't hold back on this point either. "Don't sit here and call yourself a female founder when you married the money and you married the prestige," she declared. "You didn't build anything for yourself." Those words cut deep because they expose the fundamental dishonesty at the core of Meghan's personal brand. A real founder starts with an idea, scrapes together resources, takes enormous risks, faces rejection after rejection, and slowly builds something from nothing. That's not Meghan's story, not even close. Let's examine what Meghan actually founded. She launched a lifestyle blog called The Tig years ago, which was moderately successful but nothing groundbreaking. It folded when she got serious with Harry. Then came the various post-royal ventures, American Riviera Orchard, her Netflix projects, her podcast. But here's the catch. Every single one of these initiatives was made possible because of who she married. The Netflix deal happened because they were the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, not because Meghan had some revolutionary content idea. The brand partnerships, the speaking engagements, the opportunities, they all trace back to that royal connection. Industry insiders are whispering what everyone already knows. Without the title, without Harry's family history, without that royal mystique, Meghan would be just another former cable television actress trying to pivot into lifestyle branding. There are thousands of women doing exactly that, working 10 times harder with a fraction of the resources, and they're not calling themselves founders. They're grinding in obscurity while Meghan gets magazine covers and exclusive deals simply because she wore a tiara at her wedding. But the betrayal goes even deeper for American women who actually embody the female founder spirit. These are women who maxed out credit cards to start businesses, who worked second jobs to fund their dreams, who faced investors telling them their ideas weren't worth backing. They built real companies, created actual jobs, generated genuine revenue streams. Meghan skipped all of that. She married into wealth and status, then rebranded herself as someone who earned it through entrepreneurial hustle. That's not founding anything. That's strategic positioning. The feminist angle makes it even more infuriating. Meghan constantly invokes feminist principles, talks about empowering women, champions female independence, yet her entire pathway to success contradicts those values. She leveraged a romantic relationship with a wealthy, powerful man to gain access to opportunities she couldn't have accessed otherwise. In the old-school feminist framework she claims to follow, that's the ultimate compromise. And Americans are done pretending otherwise. Let's get brutally honest about Meghan's actual Hollywood career, because the revisionist history happening right now is absolutely wild. If you listen to the way her achievements get described in certain circles, you'd think she was some massive star who gave it all up for love. But the reality? Industry insiders are setting the record straight, and it's not the glamorous narrative Meghan wants everyone to believe. Suits was her claim to fame, a cable television legal drama on USA Network where she played a paralegal named Rachel Zane. The show had a dedicated fan base, sure, but let's put this in perspective. It wasn't Friends. It wasn't Grey's Anatomy. It wasn't even close to the cultural phenomenon status of shows that actually make actors into household names. Meghan was part of an ensemble cast on a moderately successful cable show. That was the peak of her Hollywood career before Harry entered the picture. Sources from the entertainment industry reveal that Meghan auditioned for countless roles over the years with mixed results at best. She appeared in minor films, had small guest spots on various shows, and worked the Hollywood circuit like thousands of other aspiring actresses. There's nothing wrong with that grind. It's how the business works. But the narrative that she was some powerhouse performer who sacrificed a thriving A-list career for royal duty, Hollywood insiders are quietly laughing at that fiction. She was a working actress with one notable credit, and even on Suits, she wasn't the lead. Here's where it gets interesting. Before meeting Harry, Meghan was already looking for her next move. Sources suggest she was networking heavily, attending the right events, positioning herself for lifestyle brand opportunities because she understood her acting career had a ceiling. Smart move, honestly. Lots of actors pivot into other ventures when they realize they're not going to become the next Meryl Streep. But then she met a prince, and suddenly everything changed. The opportunities that came after weren't because casting directors were beating down her door. They came because she was dating, and then married to royalty. The Netflix deal is the perfect example. Meghan and Harry signed that reported $100 million contract, and immediately it was framed as validation of their creative vision and star power. But entertainment executives who spoke off the record tell a different story. Netflix wanted the royal connection, the insider access, the potential for explosive revelations about the monarchy. They weren't signing Meghan Markle the actress, or Harry the documentary filmmaker. They were signing the Duke and Duchess of Sussex and everything that title represented. American entertainment media is finally acknowledging what everyone in Hollywood already knew. Meghan's career trajectory took off like a rocket the moment she got involved with Harry, and it had nothing to do with her talent or her body of work. It had everything to do with who she married. That's not building a career through merit and achievement. That's leveraging a relationship for opportunities. And the American public is tired of pretending there's some other explanation. If you thought the 9 to 5 post was tone deaf, wait until you hear about Meghan's latest attempt at positioning herself among America's elite. Word on the street suggests that Meghan recently tried to compare her and Harry's relationship with Netflix to the partnership the Obamas have with the streaming giant. Yes, you read that correctly. Meghan apparently sees parallels between her situation and that of a two-term president of the United States and his accomplished lawyer wife. The audacity is genuinely staggering. Let's break down why this comparison is so wildly inappropriate it's almost laughable. Barack Obama served as the 44th president of the United States for 8 years. Before that, he was a United States senator, a state senator, a constitutional law professor, and a community organizer. Michelle Obama is a Princeton and Harvard Law School graduate who worked as a lawyer, served as Associate Dean of Student Services at the University of Chicago, and was Vice President for Community and External Affairs at the University of Chicago Medical Center. Their credentials are impeccable. Their public service is documented. Their achievements are measurable and significant. Now let's look at what Meghan and Harry bring to the table. Harry was born into royalty and served in the military, which deserves respect, but he didn't build anything from the ground up. Meghan was an actress on a cable show. Together, they left the royal family and signed a Netflix deal, largely based on the promise of revealing insider royal secrets and drama. The Obamas signed their Netflix deal based on decades of public service, genuine influence, and a proven ability to create meaningful content that educates and inspires. The comparison isn't just a stretch, it's an entirely different universe. American media outlets didn't waste any time highlighting these vast differences. Articles started appearing almost immediately, pointing out that the Obamas actually earned their platform through years of hard work, sacrifice, and genuine accomplishment. They didn't marry into their success. They built it through education, public service, and dedication to causes larger than themselves. Meanwhile, Meghan and Harry's Netflix content has been criticized for being self-indulgent, focused primarily on their own grievances, and lacking the substance that makes Obama productions compelling. Sources close to the situation reveal that Meghan genuinely believes she and the Obamas operate in similar circles now. She sees herself as part of this exclusive club of influential Americans making important content. But the American public isn't buying it. They see the difference between someone who served their country at the highest level and someone who married a prince then left because royal life was too difficult. They understand the distinction between Michelle Obama's decades of professional achievement and Meghan's modest acting career followed by strategic social climbing. The Netflix comparison might be the clearest example yet of Meghan's fundamental misunderstanding of how Americans view success and credibility. They respect people who earn their position through merit, who put in the work, who sacrifice for something greater than themselves. They don't respect people who marry well then act like they're on the same level as actual change makers. Let's talk about Meghan's recent explanation for why she keeps the comment section turned off on her Instagram page, because the reasoning she gave is almost as fascinating as the real reason everyone suspects. During a recent appearance, Meghan claimed she disabled comments not just to protect herself or the people who work with her, but also to protect her supporters. She wants to shield them from negativity, she says. How noble, how considerate, how completely unconvincing. Americans saw right through this carefully crafted explanation. One social media analyst put it bluntly, she just doesn't like seeing negativity. Period. It's not about protecting anyone else. It's about creating a bubble where Meghan only has to see praise, compliments, and positive reinforcement. It's about controlling the narrative so tightly that no dissenting voices can penetrate her carefully curated digital world. And that level of control reveals something deeply uncomfortable about how she handles criticism. Think about what she's actually saying with this move. By turning off comments, Meghan is essentially admitting she can't handle the same scrutiny that every other public figure faces daily. Politicians, actors, athletes, business leaders, they all deal with negative comments. Some ignore them, some engage with critics, some use humor to deflect. But they leave the comments open because that's part of being in the public eye. You don't get to have a platform, influence, and attention without also accepting that people will disagree with you, criticize you, and sometimes be downright mean. But Meghan wants it both ways. She wants the adoration, the magazine covers, the speaking engagements, the brand deals, and the influence that comes with being a public figure. But she doesn't want the criticism, the accountability, or the uncomfortable reality that not everyone thinks she's amazing. So she creates this echo chamber where only positive voices exist, then frames it as protecting others. It's manipulative, and Americans are calling it out. Royal commentators have noted an interesting pattern. Meghan talks constantly about authenticity, about being real, about showing up as her genuine self, yet she can't handle authentic reactions from the public when those reactions aren't flattering. She preaches about important conversations and difficult dialogues, but she won't allow those conversations to happen on her own platform. The hypocrisy is glaring, and it undermines every claim she makes about wanting to engage meaningfully with people. Sources suggest that the real reason for disabling comments goes deeper than just avoiding negativity. It's about image control. Every comment section tells a story about public sentiment, and if Meghan's posts were flooded with criticism, questions, or skepticism, that would contradict the narrative her PR team works so hard to maintain. Better to have no comments at all than to have comments that reveal how many people aren't buying what she's selling. The Instagram situation is revealing in ways Meghan probably didn't intend. It shows someone so fragile in the face of criticism that she has to eliminate any possibility of hearing it. And Americans, who value free speech and open dialogue, are not impressed. Now let's dive into one of the most out-of-touch moments in recent Meghan Markle history. The exclusive vegan dinner party that perfectly encapsulated everything Americans find frustrating about her brand of activism. Meghan appeared as the guest of honor at an event called A Seat at the Table, a women-only vegan banquet hosted by British CEO Emma Grade. On the surface, it sounds like a nice evening, but when you look at the details, it becomes a masterclass in privileged preaching. All the predictable elements were there. The wine was supplied by a trendy label. The chef Camilla Marcus delivered a speech about her culinary mission being all-around regenerative food. Then came the kicker. She concluded by saying that abandoning the likes of meat and dairy is the only way we will have food for generations to come. And Meghan sat there nodding along, apparently in full agreement with this sweeping declaration about how everyone should eat. Here's where working-class Americans completely lost patience. It's incredibly easy to preach about regenerative food and plant-based diets when you're loaded with money. When you can afford $15 per pound organic vegetables and specialty vegan products that cost 3 times what regular groceries cost, sure, go ahead and lecture everyone about their food choices. But when you're a struggling family barely making ends meet, when you're choosing between paying rent or buying groceries, when you're stretching every dollar just to feed your kids, choices like that just aren't on the table. The disconnect is absolutely staggering. Meghan lives in a world where she has personal chefs, unlimited grocery budgets, and access to the finest organic produce money can buy. She's never had to stand in a supermarket calculating whether she can afford both milk and bread that week. She's never had to feed a family of 4 on $50 while trying to make sure everyone gets enough protein and nutrients. Her reality is so far removed from average Americans that she genuinely doesn't understand why people find her food activism insulting. But the backlash wasn't just about the vegan preaching. It was about the exclusivity of the entire event. A women-only banquet at an upscale venue where Meghan gets treated like royalty while discussing how regular people should change their eating habits. Americans saw it for exactly what it was: elitism dressed up as activism. It's wealthy people sitting in their bubble, congratulating each other for their enlightened choices, while having zero understanding of what life is actually like for the vast majority of people. Social media erupted with working parents sharing their grocery struggles, posting pictures of their weekly food budgets, explaining why they buy conventional meat and dairy instead of expensive alternatives. They weren't asking for sympathy, they were making a point. Meghan has no business telling anyone how to eat when she's never faced the financial constraints that dictate most people's food choices. The privilege is so thick you could cut it with a knife, and Americans are done being lectured by someone so completely out of touch. Something fascinating is happening in how Meghan Markle gets covered on opposite sides of the Atlantic, and the shift is absolutely remarkable. For years, British media took the brunt of criticism for being harsh on Meghan. She painted herself as a victim of relentless tabloid attacks, racist coverage, and unfair treatment from the UK press. But now, American media has turned far more critical than their British counterparts ever were, and the irony is almost too perfect. Royal watchers are noting this dramatic reversal with genuine surprise. The same American outlets that initially championed Meghan as a breath of fresh air for the monarchy, as a modern woman shaking up an outdated institution, are now publishing increasingly skeptical pieces about her authenticity. Commentators who once defended her against British tabloids are now asking pointed questions about her motivations, her credibility, and her actual accomplishments. The protective bubble has popped, and Americans are assessing her with fresh, unforgiving eyes. Insiders suggest the American dream doesn't include becoming a princess by marriage and then claiming self-made status. That's the fundamental disconnect. Americans celebrate people who pull themselves up by their bootstraps, who overcome obstacles through hard work and determination, who build something from nothing. They love an underdog story. They admire genuine achievement. What they don't admire is someone who married into wealth and status, then acts like they earned it through their own merit while simultaneously complaining about how difficult everything has been. The contrast in coverage is striking when you compare current American media reports to British coverage from just a few years ago. British tabloids were accused of being unfairly harsh, of having hidden agendas, of treating Meghan differently because of her race. But American journalists are now saying many of the same things the British press said, just without the baggage of being dismissible as racist or bitter. When Americans point out the inconsistencies in Meghan's narrative, it hits differently. These are her own people, the audience she's trying to court, and they're not impressed. Sources close to media circles reveal that American editors are greenlighting more critical Meghan coverage because audiences are demanding it. The public appetite for fawning profiles has evaporated. Readers want accountability. They want fact-checking. They want someone to ask the tough questions that aren't being answered. Why hasn't American Riviera Orchard launched properly yet? What happened to all those Netflix projects that were announced with such fanfare? Where's the actual substance behind the carefully staged photo opportunities? But here's the most telling part of this transatlantic shift. British media can now point to American coverage and say, "We told you so." The criticisms that got UK journalists labeled as attackers are now being echoed by mainstream American outlets. And suddenly those same observations seem more legitimate. It's becoming impossible for Meghan to play the victim card when her own countrymen are the ones questioning her narrative. She can't blame British tabloids or royal racism when Americans are independently reaching similar conclusions about her authenticity and credibility. Let's address the elephant in the room that Meghan keeps trying to redecorate: the Netflix situation. Recently, Meghan attempted to put a positive spin on what industry insiders are calling a massive scaling back of her relationship with the streaming giant. She's trying to frame it as an evolution, as a natural progression into new opportunities. But behind-the-scenes sources are telling a very different story, and Americans are seeing straight through the carefully constructed PR narrative. The reality is that Netflix is essentially done with the Sussex brand as they initially envisioned it. The big-budget docuseries, the exclusive content, the groundbreaking projects that were supposed to justify that reported $100 million deal. Most of them never materialized, and the ones that did underperformed significantly. Harry and Meghan, their personal documentary, generated headlines but not the sustained viewership Netflix was hoping for. The Polo documentary barely made a ripple. Other announced projects seem to have quietly disappeared into development limbo. Sources within the entertainment industry reveal that Netflix executives are frustrated. They paid premium prices for premium access, expecting explosive revelations and compelling content that would keep subscribers glued to their screens. What they got instead was a couple who wanted control over every aspect of production, who were precious about their image, and who ultimately didn't deliver the kind of raw, authentic storytelling that makes for successful documentaries. The juice wasn't worth the squeeze, as one insider bluntly put it. But here's where Meghan's spin machine went into overdrive. Instead of acknowledging that the relationship isn't working as planned, she's trying to position it as something she chose. Reports surfaced suggesting Meghan is pivoting away from Netflix to focus on other ventures, framing it as her decision to explore new opportunities. It's classic damage control. Get ahead of the story. Make it look like you're in control. Pretend the breakup was your idea. Americans invented this playbook, and they recognize it immediately when someone tries to use it on them. The comparison to the Obamas becomes even more painful in this context. Barack and Michelle Obama's production company, Higher Ground, has produced critically acclaimed documentaries and films for Netflix. American Factory won an Oscar. Becoming was watched by millions. Crip Camp received widespread praise. Their content delivers substance, quality, and viewership. Meanwhile, Meghan and Harry's output has been criticized as self-indulgent, poorly executed, and far less interesting than the hype suggested it would be. What's emerging is a pattern that Americans are noticing across all of Meghan's ventures. Big announcements, massive hype, promises of groundbreaking content or products, followed by underdelivery, excuses, and eventually a pivot to the next big thing. American Riviera Orchard was announced with great fanfare but still hasn't properly launched. The Spotify podcast deal ended in what was reportedly mutual disappointment. Netflix is clearly scaling back their involvement. At what point does the pattern become impossible to ignore? Americans are asking that question louder every day, and Meghan's attempts to spin failure into strategic choice aren't landing the way she hopes. And now we've arrived at the heart of the matter, the undeniable truth that Americans are finally saying out loud. Meghan Markle's entire post-royal brand, every venture, every opportunity, every door that's opened for her, it all relies on one thing: Harry's title and the royal connections that come with it. Strip away the Duchess of Sussex label, remove the proximity to the British monarchy, eliminate the intrigue of someone who married into one of the world's most famous families, and what's actually left? Americans are concluding the answer is not much. This is the career blueprint that's been exposed, and it's remarkably simple. Meet a prince, marry into royalty, leverage that royal status to secure massive deals with Netflix, Spotify, and various brands. Leave the royal family while keeping the titles. Continue to trade on royal connections and insider knowledge while simultaneously criticizing the institution that gave you relevance in the first place. Rebrand yourself as an independent entrepreneur and activist. Claim you're a self-made success. Hope nobody connects the dots. But Americans are connecting those dots now, and the picture isn't flattering. Every major opportunity Meghan has received since leaving royal duties traces directly back to her marriage to Harry. The speaking engagements at corporate events commanding six-figure fees? She's invited because she's the Duchess of Sussex, not because she built a Fortune 500 company. The brand partnerships and endorsement opportunities? Companies want the royal association, the glamour of someone who wore a tiara at Westminster Abbey. The media attention and magazine covers? All driven by her connection to the monarchy she publicly distances herself from. Industry experts are whispering what's becoming increasingly obvious. Without Harry and without that Sussex title, Meghan would be competing with thousands of other former actresses trying to launch lifestyle brands. She'd be one voice among millions on social media hoping for engagement. She'd be pitching projects to studios who might take a meeting out of courtesy, but probably wouldn't greenlight anything. The harsh reality of Hollywood is that there are countless talented, hardworking people who never get the opportunities Meghan has been handed, and the only difference is she married the right person. The feminist contradiction reaches its peak here. Meghan positions herself as a champion of women building their own success, of female empowerment and independence. Yet her entire career post-Suits depends entirely on her husband's family name and the status that comes with it. She didn't build an empire, she married into access, then monetized that access while claiming to be a founder and entrepreneur. That's not breaking barriers. That's the oldest strategy in the book, repackaged with modern feminist language to make it sound revolutionary. Americans are tired of the performance. They're exhausted by the constant rebranding, the victim narratives, the claims of hardship from someone living in unimaginable privilege. They're done pretending that Meghan's success is anything other than strategic positioning based on who she married. The career blueprint has been fully exposed, and no amount of PR spin can put that truth back in the box. The question now isn't whether Americans see through it, it's what happens next when the royal connection is the only thing keeping the brand alive, and even that association is wearing dangerously thin. So what do you think? Has Meghan built anything real on her own merit, or is her entire career just one long royal ride? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and make sure you're subscribed because the next video is coming, and trust me, you won't believe what we're uncovering next. The Sussex story is far from over, and the revelations just keep getting more explosive.